For the person listening to this, I want to start out by saying this. It's not always our parents' fault that we are at the point to where we are figuring out how to build wealth from ground zero, because our parents can only give us what they had. This conversation isn't about fault. It's not about blaming. It's not about lingering on the shoulda, coulda, wouldas of what they didn't do right. This conversation here is about, where do I go from here? Where do I start from here? Because it's our job as a daughter or as a son to carry this thing to the next level. And in order to do that, you have to have a mindset and the focus that projects forward towards the future and not regressing backwards to the past. And also, building wealth looks different for everyone. My version of building wealth may be completely different than your version of building wealth, because your goals and your family structures may be different than mine. So there isn't a one size fits all, but there are some key things that it's important for you to consider. First, make sure you secure your emergency fund by making sure that you have 6 months of living expenses saved up. I broke it down step by step a few weeks ago, so follow those tips to make sure that you get your emergency fund built up to where it needs to be. Next, you want to make sure you secure a life insurance policy on yourself to make sure that you are protected, especially if you are a spouse or if you have children, because you want to make sure that in the event you suddenly pass away, your policy serves as an income replacement to your surviving family to ensure that they are inheriting wealth and not inheriting whatever debt you'll likely leave behind. It also helps to make sure that your children doesn't get uprooted because your household was conditioned to operating off of your income alone or a 2-income household. Because in the event you suddenly pass away, that means your income suddenly stops. Where does that leave your surviving spouse who has to take care of the kids alone? And where does that leave your children who's dependent on the surviving parent who's grieving while trying to figure out how to care financially for themselves and the children? And next, if you are employed, I can't stress this enough, make sure you are contributing to your employer's retirement plan, especially if there is a match. And if you're already doing that, open up a Roth IRA. Do this with a comprehensive financial advisor who can help you make sure that your Roth IRA is set up properly. Now, I know some people may argue and say, you can set that up on your own. You don't need a financial advisor. While that's true, you can set it up on your own, but do you understand your risk tolerance for investing? Once you get it set up, how do you know if you accidentally set it up and it's just sitting in cash, which means it's not making you any money or you're making the bare minimum? These are the things an advisor can walk you through to avoid these common pitfalls that so many people make, because they're trying to do it on their own, but they're missing key information. Your Roth IRA can serve as a secondary retirement account in addition to your employer's retirement account. And these two accounts are using your contributions and investing it, ensuring your money grows. Let me break this down. This year's annual max, meaning the most you can contribute to a Roth IRA, is $7,000 for 2025. Now, if you're 50 years or older, then the annual contribution limit is $8,000. Now, according to your pay schedule, whether it's weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly, this is roughly the contribution to reach the annual limit. So for this example, I'm going to use monthly. If you're listening and you're 20 years old and you max out your annual contributions by contributing $583 a month, by age 65, you'll have a little over $6 million in your Roth IRA, assuming it's a 10% return. If you're listening and you're 30 years old and you max out your annual contributions by contributing $583 a month, then by age 65, you'll have a little over $2.2 million in your Roth IRA, assuming it's a 10% return. If you're listening and you're 40 years old and you max out your annual contribution by contributing $583 a month, then by the age of 65, you'll have a little over $773,000 in your Roth IRA, assuming it's a 10% return. Now, if you're listening and you're like, dang, I can't contribute $583 a month. That's too steep for me right now. Not a problem. Start where you are now, because guess what? You're not going to always be where you are forever. You're going to grow in your job position and your salary will increase over time. So when it increases, just work towards contributing up to the match. So let's say $150 is your starting point. What does that look like? Well, if you're listening and you're 20 years old and you contribute $150 a month, then by age 65, you'll have a little over $1.5 million in your Roth IRA, assuming it's a 10% return. If you're 30 years old and you contribute $150 a month, then by age 65, you'll have a little over $569,000 in your Roth IRA, assuming it's a 10% return. If you're 40 years old and you're contributing $150 a month, then by age 65, you'll have a little over $199,000 in your Roth IRA, assuming it's a 10% return. And catch this, this is only if you stay at $150 a month. So think about what that number looks like as you increase your contributions over time, as you grow in your job and as your salary increases, you'll have more. You'll have this in addition to what you have over there with your employer. You have 2 retirement accounts that's building and compounding over time. And as always, keep your consumer debt low. Reckless borrowing and instant gratification will rob you of your ability not to just build wealth, but to also sustain what you're building. Your emergency fund protects your now. Your life insurance policy protects your family. Your employer retirement plan protects your future. And your Roth IRA is an added layer of protection to your future. Now, I'll be brutally honest. If you're listening and you're in your teens, your 20s, your 30s, or even your 40s, having one retirement account alone would not be enough to sustain you when you retire in 20 years, in 30 years, or even in 40 years. The buying power on the dollar our parents had in the 80s and 90s is not the same buying power that we have today. So if it's not the same today, then it's not going to be the same 20, 30, or 40 years from now. It'll likely be higher. $100,000 today may only be worth $60,000 in the next 30 years. I'm not saying this for you to develop a scarcity mindset. I'm saying this so you can create a wealth builder's mindset. Because a wealth builder's mindset plans today so that you can protect tomorrow. A wealth builder's mindset always have options. So if Social Security is no longer available in 30 years, or perhaps it gets reduced, it's okay because I have options for myself after I'm 59 and a half. Because I maximize my employer's plan with the match and I stay consistent with that. And I had a secondary retirement account, my Roth IRA, which added another option for myself after 59 and a half because I maximized contributing up to the match and I stayed consistent with it. And not only that, I build up my emergency fund just in case life happens and I lose my job. I have an option available that's fully funded to financially support my household as I pivot into a new job. And just in case I suddenly pass away and I'm not around to finish raise my children and or live life with my spouse or my family, I will leave them with an income replacement so that they'll have options, even in my absence. The goal of a wealth builder is to always have options that have longevity, because anybody can have options, but a wealth builder's options always have longevity attached to it. Hey family, I hope you enjoyed today's Wealth and Wisdom conversation as I broke down for beginners how to build wealth from ground zero. Make sure you share this with at least 10 people that you know. In fact, make sure you send this out to your family group chat or your friend group chat. I'll be dropping more videos like this every Wednesday. Always remember, your mindset is the key to unlocking your financial freedom. It's time to leave behind what's comfortable for what's possible. All we have is now, so start now. See y'all next week.